Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're looking at your body not just as a biological machine, but as a heavily guarded fortress perfectly designed to ward off disease. We're going to dive right into exactly how that internal fortress holds the line against exterior pathogens.
You know how some people can just breeze through a harsh winter without a single sniffle, while others seem to catch absolutely every passing bug? Well, ancient traditional Chinese medicine wisdom has a pretty fascinating way of explaining this dynamic, focusing on exactly how our body's defenses interact with the environment.
Here is our blueprint for today's explainer. We'll meet the exterior pathogens, look at your Wei Qi protective shield, dive into your key defenders, the lungs and spleen, discuss balancing yin and yang, and finally wrap up with fortifying your natural defenses. Let's jump into part 1, meet the exterior pathogens, aka the invaders. Because to defend the fortress, we obviously need to know what's attacking it. TCM identifies 5 specific climatic invaders: wind, cold, heat, dampness, and dryness. Remember, ancient practitioners didn't exactly have microscopes to look for viruses, right? Instead, they looked to nature. In this framework, these aren't just weather patterns. They're seen as active, harmful influences capable of breaching our exterior defenses. Take wind, for example. In TCM, wind is famously called the spearhead of 1,000 diseases because it literally acts as a vehicle, rapidly carrying other pathogens like cold or heat straight into your body. Now, here's the crucial takeaway. TCM views your exterior and interior as this deeply interconnected continuum. The structural integrity of your body's outer wall dictates, well, everything. If those defenses hold up, environmental factors just bounce harmlessly off. But if they crack, those pathogens penetrate much deeper. They breach the inner walls and start actively attacking your internal organs and systems. So yeah, the stakes for maintaining that outer wall are incredibly high. Moving right along to section 2, Wei Qi, your protective shield. Let's look closely at that frontline defense. Enter Wei Qi, or protective Qi. You can really think of this as a literal invisible force field. It's this vital, dynamic energy circulating right beneath your skin and mucous membranes. It's actively standing guard to block those environmental pathogens from making landfall. It even controls the opening and closing of your pores, effectively locking the gates of the fortress when danger rolls in. It's actually a pretty simple equation. When your Wei Qi is strong and abundant, it forms a robust shield that outright stops pathogens from entering. You stay healthy, completely unfazed by the chill or the damp. But if it's deficient or compromised, it's like leaving your fortress's front gates wide open. Your body becomes dangerously susceptible to those external invasions. Section 3, key defenders, the lungs and spleen, the command centers. Because that invisible shield doesn't just appear out of nowhere, it's generated internally. This brings us to a brilliantly holistic partnership. In TCM, your immune response leans heavily on 2 major organ systems, the lungs and the spleen. Together, they are completely responsible for generating your defensive energy and keeping the fortress fully operational. And honestly, it is so fascinating how these 2 systems coordinate. Let's start with the lungs. In TCM, the lungs don't just breathe. They govern your entire respiratory tract and act as the primary distributor of that Wei Qi we just talked about. They literally mist this defensive energy all across your skin. When a pathogen strikes, especially when trying to trigger a respiratory infection, your lungs actively push back to disperse and eliminate the threat before it can settle in. Meanwhile, the spleen acts as your internal supply line. By breaking down your food, it extracts and produces the essential qi and blood that fuel your overall resistance. It then sends that raw, extracted energy up to the lungs to be transformed into Wei Qi. So simply put, strong digestion equals strong armor. All right, section 4, balancing yin and yang, the fortress ecosystem. Because strong walls really mean nothing if the internal ecosystem is collapsing. Optimal immunity in TCM isn't just about fighting off the bad guys. It's entirely about maintaining strict internal harmony. Your Wei Qi completely depends on a perfect equilibrium between yang and yang energies. Yang provides the active, warming energy of your defense, while yin provides the cooling, nourishing substance that anchors it all. And here is how sickness actually takes root. Prolonged exposure to an invader, like extreme cold, for instance, creates an internal excess. That excess totally shatters your yin-yang balance, throwing your immune response into chaos. The invader essentially consumes your yang energy, freezing your defenses and allowing symptoms like chills and stiffness to manifest. Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, Fortifying Your Natural Defenses. Time for some fortress maintenance.
So, how do we actively keep our Wei Qi strong? Well, TCM approaches this super proactively. The absolute best time to defend a fortress is long before the army even arrives, right? Step 1 is restoring any existing yin-yang imbalances, so your baseline health is rock solid. Step 2 is leaning heavily into ongoing preventative care to actively tonify your qi and nourish your yin. Prevention is quite literally everything here.
Your daily routine is your ultimate defense strategy. Making sure you get proper rest directly nourishes your yin, while sensible dietary changes, like avoiding overly cold or raw foods, really support your spleen's ability to generate qi. These aren't just trendy wellness buzzwords. They are active, foundational medical strategies to fortify your Wei Qi. Now, if lifestyle tweaks alone aren't quite cutting it, that's where targeted TCM interventions come into play. Preventative acupuncture treatments and specialized herbal medicine formulas can be brought in systematically to tonify your qi. This builds up your protective shield from the inside out, severely dropping your susceptibility to illness before an invader even has a chance to strike.
By treating your body as a deeply interconnected fortress, you really hold the keys to incredible, lasting vitality. Understanding the ancient mechanics of exterior pathogens and internal shields completely changes how you look at your health. So take a close look at your own habits today. What cracks in your fortress walls are you leaving unguarded? And what steps will you take to fortify your Wei Qi and patch them up? Thanks for joining this explainer, and we will see you next time.